whatever. People say stupid things all the time. That is different than a pattern and a practice of racist behavior or condoning it. People saying it, doing it, putting it in policies.
There are moments when you do the right thing. God forbid you and I are out, which, you know, happens on a regular basis. Somebody comes up, says something ugly to you. It happens. Who knows what happens to me for doing that?
You embrace them. You hug them.
But yeah, I hug them. I hug them with 3 knuckles that make their eyes roll into their head, and they wake up 7 minutes with a headache later. The point is, you stand up against the ugly people, and you do what has to be done in the moment, because none of us tolerate that kind of BS. That's what you do for the people you care about. The president's job is to care about all of us. And he's got to stand up against it, and you can't let him get away with saying nothing. Either you're for King or you're against him.
Yeah. So you say that, right? And I believe that, if that actually happened, if we were out.
100%.
But do you think that there is some, and I'm just, you know, okay, so people always credit us because we're just quite honest with each other, but do you think there is some naivete in that people would actually do that people actually do that in situations that aren't necessarily that dramatic in their everyday lives when it comes to their interactions with people who don't look like them?
Regardless your take on the social reality, whether people step up as the Good Samaritan or whether you believe in the Kitty Genovese model, where people stay away even when horrible things are happening because of self-preservation, doesn't matter to me. It's about what's the right thing to do in a situation. And obviously, you know, I'm reaching into what you could easily argue, and my therapist would, and most of my family agree, that I should keep my hands off people when they enrage me. But that's what I do in protection of those
You need
who
to
I
start
love.
using some Gillette razors, by the way.
That's exactly right. I'd have to use a whole bag of them, as has been suggested to me, and that's weird when I have absolutely no beard. The point is, you got to do the right thing in the moment, and this is easy.
Yeah.
The president doesn't have to get in a fist fight with anybody. He has to do what's obvious. He has to take the layup, make the unopposed layup, put the ball in the basket and say, we're not about this kind of hate, my brothers and sisters. We are better than this. We are better than Steve King and what he says, and he won't do it.
Just one more thing, because I know that you have to leave. You have an obligation. What do you think is worse? Because the extremes, people are always outraged by the extremes. We always talk about the extremes. We always condemn, usually, the extremes. But in the moment when people do, like part of our conversation last night, when they overlook things, when they don't really interact with people of color in their everyday lives, they don't really live diversity. What do you think is worse? Do you think it's worse that because we know that there are fringes, we know that there are, you know, the Klan and on, and we know that people who openly call people the N-word, but when it's not part of your daily life, is that even? Because you're sort of participating in something that is, you know, not cool either.
Well, look, ignorance is forgivable, right? Ignorance is blameful unless you're willfully ignorant. Arrogance is not. And that's what we're dealing with here. Somebody who knows better, who knows
Well,
I'm just talking
about the people we know, or people, just the average, everyday person.
I don't know people like that because, you know, I came from, you know, Queens. I came from a melting pot place. Where
that is true.
And so did Trump, by the way.
That is true.
You know, so the idea that you don't know what's right and what's wrong and how to treat people and about who looks like you versus who is like you, you know, you learn those things where I come from. You learn that in my family. You know, that's what we're about.
I just find a lot of people, and some of them we know, they talk the talk, but they don't necessarily walk the walk, right?
That's nothing new. Hypocrisy is everywhere.
Yeah.
What I want to know is this. When somebody steps up to D. Lemon and puts their hands on you and does the wrong thing, and I put them where they need to be, and I get arrested,
what do you say?
Do you bail me out, or do you call my wife and say you need to bail him out? What happens?
No, I think before Christine and I will go for a drink. We'll hang out for a little bit.
I'm feeling the wallet doesn't come out from D. Lemon.
And we'll say let him stew in his own juices for a little bit because...
That Amex Black Card come out enough.
You mean hers? The one that's with your name on it?
No, the numbers are off of that thing from overuse.
No, I bail you out. But first of all, I would probably say don't do that. You'd have to... I ignore people like that. I don't give it any energy. You get all upset about things like that.
There's a line.
I don't.
There's a line.
I prefer to use my words as we do every single night here, and that's how we work things out.
That's why we get along so well.
Go do your thing. Well, go do your thing.
Well,
I'll see you
mostly
later.
fear on your side, but mine is love.
Okay.
See you later, bud.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. And, man, Rudy Giuliani out-Giuliani'd himself tonight. Did you hear him say this to Chris?
I never said there was no collusion between the campaign or between people in the campaign.
Yes,
I
you
have no idea if I have not. I said the President of the United States.
And he's got, let's call it, a unique explanation for Paul Manafort, Trump campaign chairman, sharing polling data to Konstantin Kilimnik during the campaign. Polling data is given to everybody. It's not accurate anyway.
Polling data is given to everybody. I mean, you shouldn't have given it to them. It's wrong to give it to them.
It's not given to everybody.
And I can't speak for Paul Manafort. Of course it is. First of all, the most inappropriate, the most inaccurate stuff is internal polling data. All of it is cooked.
Quite a performance, right? But make no mistake, there is a method to this madness. President's attorney, as he always does, laying out the groundwork there for what is to come. So stay tuned to that. And I want to talk about something that's really serious tonight. There's just no other way to say it. This is a government and a world in turmoil. Some people may say it's crazy, some people may say chaos, but I think turmoil is a good term. So many of the things that we thought were under control, the institutions we thought we could all depend on, are on shaky ground right now. I mean, really think about it. And here's the part that should really, really worry you. An awful lot of this plays right into the hands of Vladimir Putin, pulling the strings. The devastating news out of Syria today: 4 Americans killed in a brutal attack in the country's north. The horror captured in a video that, and I warn you, it is graphic, okay? ISIS claiming, look at that, claiming responsibility for that. Yes, ISIS. The enemy, the president said last month, was defeated.
We have won against ISIS. We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home.
He said it again just a few days ago.
Knocking the hell out of ISIS, and we're bringing our folks back home.
And that was after military commanders warned him during his surprise Christmas visit to Iraq that ISIS was not defeated. One of the president's top allies, Senator Lindsey Graham, saying the Syria withdrawal emboldens ISIS.
My concern by the statements made by President Trump is that you'd set in motion enthusiasm by the enemy we're fighting. You make people who are trying to help wonder about us. And as they get bolder, the people we're trying to help are going to get more uncertain. I saw this in Iraq, and I'm now seeing it in Syria.
Following today's attack, 2 U.S. officials told CNN that there are no current plans to reverse the president's decision to begin withdrawing troops from Syria. And who is all of this good for? Who does it benefit? Who benefits from the power vacuum in Syria? Putin. Listen to what he said the day after President Trump announced the troop withdrawal.
As far as ISIS is concerned, I agree more or less with the president of the U.S.
Vladimir Putin's aim is to disrupt here and throughout the West. In a 2017 report, the U.S. intelligence community cites what they call Moscow's long-standing desire to undermine the U.S.-led liberal democratic order, to undermine, to disrupt, to divide us, a world in turmoil. And here's the latest example of turmoil in our government. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, flexing her muscles today, urging this president to postpone the State of the Union. That hasn't happened since the Challenger disaster more than 3 decades ago. Speaker putting the blame squarely on the shutdown.
This requires hundreds of people working on the logistics and the security of it. Most of those people are either furloughed or victims of the shutdown, the president's shutdown. But that isn't the point. The point is security. This is a housekeeping matter in the Congress of the United States so that we can honor the responsibility of the invitation we extended to the president. You can make it from the Oval Office if you want.
So, I mean, but honestly, just think about it. What does he say? State of our union is shut down? What do you say? The State of the Union. It is. It's shut down. The fact is, even though Nancy Pelosi framed this as a request to the president, it's really not a request to the president. Here's the way this works, all right? The House and the Senate both have to pass resolutions to greenlight the State of the Union. Nancy Pelosi controls whether the House passes one. She holds all the cards here. And why is all this happening? It's all because of the government shutdown, 26 days and counting. 800,000 people not getting paychecks. Remember, that has a ripple effect right throughout the economy. 800,000 people who need to pay the rent to feed their families. The president, the man his voters expected to be the deal maker in chief, refusing to make a deal. He signed a bill today that ensures federal workers will be paid eventually. Eventually. Though that's got to be small comfort with no end in sight to this shutdown. And contractors, some 2 million of them, can't count on getting paid at all for their lost time. At all. Imagine you're working. You work for a couple of weeks, maybe even months. Who knows how long it's going to be. And you don't get paid for it. You're never going to get paid for it. Many of those contractors, many of them are small business owners. And that's taking a toll, as I said, on the entire economy. The White House acknowledging the shutdown is hitting much harder than they previously estimated. And remember, the economy is the force field around the Trump presidency. The thing that keeps him afloat, the thing this president relies on to distract from everything that has gone wrong in this administration.
Do you impeach somebody because he created the greatest economic success in the history of our country? Let's impeach him because the country is so successful. Let's impeach him.
So, but he's also painfully aware that he promised the base the wall. And it doesn't look like he can have it all. He can't have it both ways. He can't end the shutdown if he refuses to budge on the wall. And every day this shutdown continues is another day of damage to the economy, the force field around this presidency. Another day of crisis, a crisis of the president's own making, one that threatens his presidency and this country's stability. And it is part of the turmoil across the West. Just look at the UK, where Brexit threatens to leave the economy in chaos. Vladimir Putin is getting exactly what he wants. He attacked our democracy by interfering in our election. The entire intelligence community says there's no doubt of that. Yet we learned today that this president, the day after 2 meetings with Putin in Hamburg, told a New York Times reporter that Russia was being falsely accused. Falsely accused. President Trump defending the man sowing discord in democracies all over the world. The question is, why? Lots to talk about. Susan Glasser's here, Max Boot as well. We're going to dig into it next.
What makes this simple salad the best simple salad ever? Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple, so good. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales. Build attendance for an event. Help people find their way. Fast Signs designed new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
Hey man, could I get a pound of the flank, a pound of the ground sirloin, and a ribeye?
Hey, I thought you were vegan.
Yeah, I'm paleo now.
Huh.
I'm flexible. And give me just some of that, surprise me.
Space. The final frontier. We have always looked to the stars to discover who we are.
Wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way.
I look forward to it.
Star Trek Discovery. Go online to learn more.
I'm Ken Jacobus, and I switched to the Spark Cash Card from Capital One. I earn unlimited 2% cash back on everything I buy. And last year, I earned $36,000 in cash back, which I used to offer health insurance to my employees. What's in your wallet?
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, just scan the sensor with your reader or iPhone and manage your diabetes. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you can check your glucose levels anytime without fingersticks. Ask your doctor to write a prescription for the new Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
At this point in my life, I know what I like, which is why I use Consumer Cellular. I get unlimited talk and text for just $25 a month with no contract.
J.D. Power recognized Consumer Cellular for outstanding customer service 5 times in a row. Plus, Consumer Cellular is an approved AARP provider, so members get exclusive discounts.
Switching was easy. I've got everything I want for half what I used to pay, and that's the way I like it.
Get wireless the way you like it. Call, go online, or find us at Target.
We just got married.
We're all under one roof now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How many kids?
My 2, his 3.
Along with 2 dogs and Jake, our new parrot. That is quite the family.
Quite a lot of colleges to pay for, though.
A lot of colleges. Okay, you get any financial advice?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's the same plan they sold me before.
Well, your situation's totally changed now.
Right.
How about a plan that works for 5 kids, 2 dogs, and Jake over here? That'd be great.
That would be great.
That okay with you, Jake?
Get a portfolio that works for you now and as your needs change from TD Ameritrade Investment Management.
At Wayfair.com, we think that when the big stuff ships free, it's just better.
Cover better, brunch better, crunch better, rock better, roll better, whoa better, dream better, clean better. Yeah, better!
Oh, Wayfair has free shipping. Game changer.
Fast better, free better, everything's better when
Get
it's
free shipping on orders over $49. Shop better at Wayfair.com.
Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
Our breaking news tonight comes from the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, telling Chris tonight that President Trump did not collude with Russia, but he doesn't know if the other people in the Trump campaign did. Interesting, right? Let's bring in Susan Glasser and Max Boot, the author of Corrosion of Conservatism, Why I Left the Right. Good evening to both of you. I just want to play what the president's attorney said about collusion again. Watch this.
I never said there was no collusion between the campaign or between people in the campaign.
Yes, you
I have no idea if I have not.
Okay, so we've seen Rudy Giuliani, Max, get out there, say some things that seem outlandish or like mistakes. But then, like, he's laying the groundwork for things to come. Now did he say there's possibly collusion? What did you?
Right. I mean, I think we're about 1 or 2 days away, Don, from Rudy Giuliani saying that collusion with hostile foreign powers is what makes America great. I mean, this is just stunning because when Giuliani makes these kinds of concessions, and you got to play that clip over and over again tonight because the president's lawyer is basically admitting that the president's campaign colluded with Russia to affect the outcome of the American election.
All right, say that again. The president's
lawyer is basically admitting that the president's campaign worked with a hostile foreign power to affect the outcome of the American election.
Why do you say that?
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying, Rudy Giuliani is saying, I'm not denying that there was collusion. I'm just saying it didn't involve the president personally. I'm just saying the president didn't personally break the law. So this is moving the goalpost. This is establishing a new defensive perimeter. And he's basically saying, we're going to give up everybody on the campaign to Mueller. He's basically signaling, I think, that he knows that there is very strong evidence of collusion, and he is trying to get out ahead of that evidence. And, you know, we may say, oh, well, you know, so what else is new? But let me just underline how staggering it is to have a president's campaign having worked with a foreign power to affect an election. This has really never happened before in American history, what Giuliani is so cavalierly admitting to Chris Cuomo tonight.
Susan, you agree with that?
There's no question this is moving the goalposts. I would say a couple things. Number one, the president's defense, as far as I can glean it from his lawyer here, seems to be basically, I had nothing to do with my own campaign. It reminds me of the way in which he often has nothing to do with his own foreign policy. What you hear from the president's advisors is very different from what you hear from the president. And now what you hear from the president's lawyer is essentially something, it's an enhanced version of what we've been hearing for a long time, which is Paul Manafort who? No, he wasn't running my campaign. And I think you're going to hear a lot more of that. The evidence that we have now, Max listed it out very damningly and compellingly in his post column the other day, is far more evidence of what, remember, in the Trump Tower meeting leading up to it, the email to Don Jr. referred to the Russian government's support for President Trump's campaign. What was that support? That's the question I would like to ask Mr. Giuliani tonight.
I want to get your reaction. Max, your reaction, starting with you first. The New York Times reporting, they're referencing the 2017 G20 meeting in Hamburg where Putin and Trump met, all right? And as reported, Trump confiscated the interpreter's notes, and then they write, the day after the two meetings, as Mr. Trump was on Air Force One taking off from Germany, heading back to Washington, he telephoned a Times reporter and argued that the Russians were falsely accused of election interference. While he insisted most of the conversation be off the record, he later repeated a few things in public in little noticed asides. Have you heard a U.S. president argue a point like that on behalf of a foreign adversary before?
No, of course not. And this is part of a pattern with Trump of seeming to represent Russian interests rather than American interests. I mean, there is so much which has actually come out in the last few days on that Hamburg meeting, including the fact that there were these private discussions between Trump and Putin, and afterwards Trump came out with his cover story claiming that the meeting which had happened in 2016 at Trump Tower with the Russian lawyer was about quote-unquote adoptions. And he admitted that he talked about quote-unquote adoptions, Trump did, with Putin himself, which suggests that perhaps they might have cooked up the story together. There was even a video clip that came out online today showing Trump at this dinner table with Putin making like this power type signal at Putin. I mean, this whole thing is just crazy, and it just adds to this mountain of evidence that Putin has some kind of hold over Donald Trump. This is not on the level.
Yeah, I want to read a bit more of the reporting, Susan, and I want you to respond. And it's a guy that you know well, who is a pretty good reporter here, and here's what he says. He said that he raised the election hacking 3 times, and that Mr. Putin denied involvement. But he said Mr. Putin also told him that if we did, we wouldn't have gotten caught because we're professionals. Mr. Putin said, I thought that was a good point because they are some of the best in the world at hacking. Okay, so we know President Trump repeated this talking point within the White House, and at times, and at the time, this is according to Anthony Scaramucci, right? Do we think the president still believes this?
Look, he said this publicly at the Helsinki press conference, standing right alongside Vladimir Putin. One other point to consider from whatever the conversation was between those two, between Putin and Trump at the Hamburg meeting, and again, it is extraordinary and without precedent that the President of the United States has gone to these great lengths to conceal the nature and substance of his communications and his 5 separate meetings with Vladimir Putin. This is not something that any other president ever of any party would ever do. Period. Full stop. Also consider that on that same plane ride when he was phone calling a New York Times reporter was also when he was personally dictating the statement in which there was the false cover story produced about what the Trump Tower meeting was about, which also repeated this claim about adoptions as being the substance of the Trump Tower meeting. That issue, the president's dictating of that statement, is something that we know to be under investigation by the Mueller team, and it directly connects the President of the United States to covering up what actually was the substance of the meeting and the reason for the Trump Tower meeting. So this isn't something that you can dismiss as aides. This isn't something that you can dismiss as people acting without any knowledge of President Trump. Why was he personally dictating that statement? Why was he misleading the American people? We have not been given answers about it, and I think it's extraordinary that all these things are occurring within hours of his private and unrecorded conversation with Vladimir Putin.
All right, that's all we have time for. I got to run, but I would encourage everyone to read your latest piece in the Washington Post, Max. It's called "The GOP has become the drunken frat boy party, and it sees no reason to sober up." We'll continue this conversation. Thank you both. I appreciate your time. Has the president met his match in Speaker Pelosi? The former Congresswoman Mia Love weighs in next. There she is. We'll see her after the break.
How do you gauge the greatness of an SUV? Is it to carry cargo or to carry on a legacy? Its show of strength or its sign of intelligence? In crossing harsh terrain or breaking new ground? This is the Mercedes-Benz SUV family. Greatness comes in many forms. Lease the GLC 300 for $479 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
It was love at first slice.
Pizza lovers everywhere, meet Oh That's Good frozen pizza. 1/3 of our classic crust is made with cauliflower, but that's not stopping anyone. Oh That's Good.
Our yard could really use some work. Do you know any good landscapers? You know, I think I do. I need quotes from your top 4 guys and check their credentials and customer reviews.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So just ask HomeAdvisor.
One day I'm chewing a piece of hard candy and my 2 front teeth snapped off. My teeth were so messed up. I work in a casino. When I would laugh or engage with the players, I did it like this a lot. It's because I was embarrassed of my teeth. I don't think dentures were ever a solution. The only option for me was Clear Choice.
David was due for a complete reconstruction. Because we have the surgeon and the prosthodontist and the lab in one facility working together as a team, we can perform this procedure in 1 day.
The Clear Choice one-day approach is making dental implants a reality for people all over the country who suffer from missing or failing teeth.
The whole procedure was done in the same day. Had a beautiful smile.
Schedule your free consultation today. We'll even talk about financing options.
If I don't get at least 5 or 6 compliments a day at work, it wouldn't be normal. You go, wow, those teeth, they're gorgeous. It's all because of Clear Choice.
Call Clear Choice today.
When I tell people my story, they don't believe it, but it's true.
How could you not tell us?
Presented by Volkswagen.
My gums are irritated. I don't have to worry about that. Do I?
Actually, you do. Harmful bacteria lurk just below the gum line.
New Crest Gum Detoxify works below the gum line to neutralize harmful plaque bacteria and help reverse early gum damage. Gum Detoxify from Crest.
Breathe freely fast with Vicks Sinex.
My congestion's gone.
I can breathe again! I can breathe again! Oh.
Vicks Sinex. Breathe on.
The 70s, shaped by the music. Boogie Down as Reels gives you the lowdown on the music legends who played the soundtrack to the max.
I did not ask to be the one that became the most famous.
We could do anything we wanted, so we did.
Love to Love the 70s week, all this week on Reels Channel 238. Can you dig it?
This is CNN. The most trusted name in news.
So the president says to his aides, we are getting crushed by the shutdown. That's according to the New York Times tonight. Frustrated about why he can't get a deal. Why he can't get a deal everyone flat out told him that he couldn't get after he reneged on previous agreements. Why he can't get a deal that he couldn't get even when Republicans controlled both houses of Congress. Let alone now that Nancy Pelosi is the speaker and she's in charge. Joining me now is former Republican Congresswoman and CNN political commentator Mia Love. Thank you for joining us this evening, Mia. I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. Speaker Pelosi suggested the president delay his State of the Union address until the shutdown has been resolved, citing security concerns. This is a power move, and it's something that the president has not dealt with yet in his presidency.
Well, you said something that was really important that everyone has to remember. She holds the cards in the House of Representatives. I mean, that House she essentially controls the House. So really, I can't stand the fact that they're putting all of the decision making in the hands of the administration, where Congress really has the cards there. They have all of the cards.
Yeah. And so, but he's not used to it. Do you think that's affecting his judgment, his decision-making ability, clouding them maybe?
I can't get into the mind of the president, but I can tell you this. This is something that is incredibly frustrating to the American people watching this, what I call ping pong politics, where there's this power play. If Congress really wanted to do something, they can essentially bring up a vote every 48 hours if they want to open up government. They need a supermajority. If they can they can get a supermajority, they don't have to wait for the president to either sign something into law or veto it.
Okay, then let's talk about that. What are your former colleagues saying? Do they like being in this position of shutting the government down over the wall?
Well, I think what's most frustrating, and I was actually still a member when this happened, is having the meeting with Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, and he's saying, look, if you don't give me a wall, I will own the shutdown. And all of my colleagues were like, no, we don't want to own the shutdown. Nobody wants to own the shutdown. What are you doing? So he lost a lot of his leverage by saying, I will own the shutdown. And so, of course, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi is like, great, you take it. Deal. We don't have to give you a border, and you can own the shutdown. So now you can see this power play between the House leadership, and I don't know where the Senate is in all of this. I've heard nothing from the Senate, but it's really a power play between House leadership and the President of the United States, and of course Chuck Schumer. But I would like to see a little bit more of Mitch McConnell speaking to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Leader McCarthy, so that they can come up with a way to open up government and having border security that makes sense.
Yeah. Listen, we discussed this a little bit the other night, and I want to talk to you about it more and get your thoughts on your former colleague, Steve King, the fallout over these comments that he made in an interview with the New York Times. The controversy just keeps growing. Monday, the president said that he hadn't heard anything about King's comments. Here's Sarah Sanders this earlier today.
Does he support the condemnation of Steve King, Sarah? Did he support that by the House?
Steve King's comments were abhorrent, and the Republican leadership, unlike Democrats, have actually taken action when their members have said outrageous and inappropriate things. I hope that Democrat leadership will follow the very strong and rightful leadership that the Republicans have done over this.
I would view that as a dodge, but I just want to get your response to the White House. With the response?
Look, I think everyone, Republicans, Democrats, especially the White House, they should be leading on this. I mean, it's one of the frustrations that I think a lot of people have with the Republican Party that I felt like I've had when we're not sticking up for minority communities. We love all Americans. We want to make sure that the policies work for everyone. We love all families, and the policy should work for everyone. And so to see members not stick up, or to see any American not stick up for minority communities and actually go after someone who says these things, I think is it would be inappropriate. So I'm glad that they stripped him of his committees, especially when it comes to the fact that he would have been voting on voter fraud or voter rights or immigration reform, anything that is coming up in judiciary and ag. He shouldn't speak for the Republican Party.
I think you're making a very important point, but the White House saying, if they had just said what you said before, that America's about all people. I'm just paraphrasing what you said, and then left off the whataboutism. Well, the Democrats shouldn't the White House have taken responsibility and said, listen, what he said was horrible. There's no room for it in our society, and just move on.
I think it's the right thing to say. I think it's the right thing to do. But as we know, the administration says whatever they want to, and I think again, at least what people want to feel is that you're on their side. Right. And I think that everyone needs to do a better job at that.
Yeah. Mia, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The president's shutdown is doing a lot more damage to the economy than the government predicted, actually. Will he have to choose between his beloved wall and a strong economy?
The unknown beyond the horizon. That was once our frontier. But today, a new frontier has risen, and this is the vehicle crafted to conquer it. Introducing the first of its kind Lexus UX and UX F Sport, also available in hybrid all-wheel drive. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Exploring the heart of historic Europe with Viking, you'll get closer to iconic landmarks, to local life and legendary treasures, as you sail on board our patented, award-winning Viking longships. You'll enjoy many extras, including Wi-Fi, cultural enrichment from ship to shore, and engaging excursions. Viking, voted #1 river cruise line by Condé Nast readers. Learn more at vikingcruises.com.
HelloFresh delivers fresh ingredients and simple recipes, getting you from doorstep to delicious. in around 30 minutes or less. Use code TV80 to get $80 off. HelloFresh, get cooking.
I was surprised being able to pick up a language so quickly.
Babbel, the quick way to get conversational in a new language. Babbel's award-winning interactive technology gets you speaking right away.
You jump right in and learn relevant words and phrases right from the first lesson.
I couldn't believe how fast it was going. It was wonderful.
In a very short period of time, within 3 weeks, you're speaking Spanish.
So, which language do you want to speak today? Now, you can try Babbel free, the #1 app in the world.
I work in France, and now that I'm speaking French, my colleagues there are impressed.
I don't know who designed it, but it's genius.
Now, if we go to a French restaurant, I can converse with the waiter in French, and I'm like, woohoo!
Try Babbel free today. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language. Babbel, which language do you want to speak today?
That rocking chair would look great in our new house.
Oh, a new house, eh? Well, you should definitely see how Geico could help you save on homeowners insurance.
Nice tip. I'll give you $2 for the chair.
2? That's a Victorian antique.
All right. How much for the recliner, then?
Wait. How did that get out here? That is definitely not for sale.
If it's in the yard, then it's for
sale. Here we
go. Geico. You can save on homeowner insurance.
What happened to the word?
Most
to shut down, taking a 20 chunk out of wait.
Trump's going to make it.
Security. We're going to have it all. Still slack, whatever you
Mind you that
I will shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you shouldn't shut it down.
it's like the cat that ate the canary. He's like, oh. Right now, 26 days into the shutdown, the economy is in danger, and there is no deal in sight to open the government, to open it back up, or fund Trump's border wall. The economy, the wall, the shutdown. Trump wants to own them all. Can he? Let's discuss. Rob Astorino is here, Joan Walsh, Michael D'Antonio, the author of The Truth About Trump. Rob, good evening, everybody. You hate hearing when he says, "I will take responsibility." Whatever he says.
My God. Did you see Schumer at that? He goes, "Ooh."
Yeah. Did you hear Mia Love before? She said they were screaming, "No, we don't want to take responsibility for it." It's unbelievable.
Look, he shouldn't have said that at the point because that just I can hear in Schumer's mind and Pelosi's mind right at that second. I can't wait to go outside in this press conference.
And they did.
And they did. And look. We're at an impasse right now that's not going to be changed unless the dialogue is changed. And I think only the president can do that, right? And I'm appealing to the president right now, go big. Here's how we can change it, because Pelosi's not going to give a dime. She's already said nothing for the wall, which is completely a contradiction to what the Democrats did just 11 months ago. But aside from that, they're not going to budge. The president has to, at this point, say, let's get to the table. Let's put DACA on the table. Let's talk about the entire immigration system, and let's get to work.
Okay, didn't that happen already?
No, not in a serious way. He hasn't said it.
But
it happened last year.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. When you talk about 11 months ago, but that all happened.
That happened,
he said
we're at a different point now.
And then
we're at a different point now.
And then there was another deal after that, and then he said,
first of all, 11 months ago, poison pills the Democrats put in that $25 billion bill. But it did show that they were willing. It wasn't immoral 11 months ago, that wall. It's only immoral now because the president boxed himself in.
I think, anyway, I know people keep saying that. I don't think it was in the form that the president says. And no one is saying that there shouldn't be some sort. There's already a structure.
Right. Correct.
I don't think Democrats are saying there's already a structure
but they're
at the
using
border.
immoral. The wall is immoral now.
That's
Jorge
their thing.
Ramos just wrote in the New York Times, it's racist, it's immoral, it's all this
There are
stuff.
places where the wall makes sense, and there are lots of places where it doesn't make sense.
I want to talk about this because the president, he talks about the wall, which was his signature promise, right, Michael? But he could tell his supporters, because they want to believe him, they're not going to not support him, regardless, right? He can tell his supporters, listen, whatever he wants to say, I'm not going to come up with any scenario. But the economy is the saving grace of this president, and he has to choose one over the other. I think he is being a little bit naive, because maybe, with the shutdown, because that will be the thing that actually harms him more than the wall.
Well, the shutdown is a terrible thing, and it's actually really hitting farm country in a big way. They're not able to plan for the spring plantings. There's all kinds of concern about exports. It's really disastrous for his base.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure that the president prefers dealing with the economy. He likes this concept of a wall.
He likes to fight?
He likes to fight, but he's boxed himself in. This four-letter word, W-A-L-L, is a trap for him, and he doesn't know how to get out of it because he's promised it over and over again. Who's going to pay for it?
Mexico.
It's ridiculous. So every time this comes up, this video is going to be played, and he looks like a fool.
If he has to choose, which one does he pick, the wall or the economy?
I think the wall. I think he's going to find a way to blame the economy on Democrats. The shutdown is we already know, even though we've got that wonderful tape, he says the shutdown is on the Democrats. He says the buck stops everywhere. That's kind of my favorite Trump phrase from the whole time, the buck stops everywhere, not with him. So I think he's going to find a way to spin the economic troubles as Pelosi created. I don't think it's going to work. It'll work for
You think
days.
economic troubles? Because here's what I think: at the during election time, when it's actually time to go and to the polls for the next election, if the economy is not doing well, the people who he will have his staunch staunch supporters.
They're not going anywhere.
But the people who were voted for him because of economics, because they were getting a tax or whatever, and
Oh, I'm not saying it's not disastrous
don't you
for
think
him.
that has more importance than the wall when it gets to that point?
I hate to say this, but I don't think he can, and I don't think he can grapple. I don't think there's anybody in his circle at this point who can reach him with reality.
Rob is trying.
Rob is trying. He's talking to the TV.
Rob,
Certainly
there's
I'm
a new
trying.
Marist poll that says 61% of people have a more negative feeling about the president because of the government shutdown. Is he? I don't know.
Well, so two things. First of all, the economy. I think the little threat here that we have is temporary in nature, because once the shutdown is over, that money's going to flood right back in. They're going to get their normal pay, they're going to get their back pay. So
not everybody.
Most people will, and I think most things will get back on track. But as far as the wall goes, that's why I said he's not going to change any minds right now, because people think he's obstinate. They're not seeing that Pelosi and the Democrats are obstinate. That's why if he throws out something big, then I think the average person will say, you know what, at least he is moving on this. He is trying to do something. And if the Democrats stay with their nothing, then that's when things can start to change.
I don't understand. Okay, listen, let's just real estate here. This is what I don't understand, and this is what's frustrating to me. If you reach it and say, I want a condo, the condo is going to cost $50,000, right? And then you go to the thing and they are already. And then you come back and say, you know what? No, I decided now I want $70,000 for this condo. And you say, well, wait a minute. We had a deal. Why is it incumbent upon me at a deal that was signed? Why isn't it you agreed upon this? Why is it incumbent upon the people who had the deal and not the person who's moving the goalpost to all of a sudden start negotiating?
Maybe they did the inspection on the house. You found something. I'm
just going down that road.
Be honest,
change.
come on.
And in negotiations, things always
be
change.
honest. Come on.
Things always change.
No, I think the problem is
That's always changed. When you sign a contract, that's
no contract.
No contract.
But
no
he
contract
had
was
a
signed.
deal with, and do you think a contract was signed? He had a deal with Mitch McConnell.
He had a
now
deal.
He's making Mitch McConnell look like, because now he can't move. McConnell can't exercise his prerogative, which is to bring legislation before the Senate. He's waiting for the president to tell him.
I gotta run. You remember that song, Where in the World is
Mitch McConnell?
Go big, Mr. President. Go big. Change the dialogue.
You heard it. Be right back.
Yeah.
Can you check out this? Introducing 18 Mitsubishi. If you like sculpted lines, you love its dynamic design. In a world of asphalt, gravel, and snow, Super All-Wheel Control will save the day. With a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, the Eclipse Cross is a must-see. Now showing at a dealership near you.
What? Get $3,000 cash back or 0% APR for 72 months plus $1,000 cash back on select 2018 models.
Drive your ambition. Mitsubishi Motors.
1 millionth order.
Millionth order.
There goes our first big order.
44, 45, 46. How many of these things order?
Oh, that's hot.
You know, we could sell these.
Nah.
We don't bake.
Opportunity. What we deliver by delivering. What makes this simple salad the best simple salad? Great tasting, heart healthy California walnuts. So simple, so good. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
I'm Ken Jacobs, and I switched to the Spark Cash Card from Capital One. I earn unlimited 2% cash back on everything I buy. And last year, I earned $36,000 in cash back, which I used to offer health insurance to my employees. What's in your wallet?
Family Taco Night is a heartburn night you can plan for, but surprise pizza at the office means heartburn you didn't expect. Zantac works when you need it. It relieves or prevents heartburn in as little as 30 minutes and lasts up to 12 hours. Zantac. Eat your way, treat your way.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales.
Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way.
Fast Signs designed new directional signage
and got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
Need a change of scenery? Kayak searches hundreds of travel sites and lets you filter by takeoff time, layovers, and more, so you can be confident you're getting the right flight at the best price. Kayak. Search one and done.
Hiring? It's a big deal. Finding the right candidates can take up lots of your time and energy. But not on Indeed. Millions of great people are using Indeed every single day. People with every possible combination of skill and experience. And with filters to help you find them faster, whatever type of candidates you're looking for, you'll find them on Indeed. Accelerate your hiring even more with a $50 credit to start your first job post with premium placement on Indeed.
As we age, our oral health begins to suffer. Teeth weaken, mouths are more sensitive, gum health suffers. That's why people like us use Closest Silver with fluoride. It's specially formulated for the needs of older adults. Closest Silver is alcohol-free, so it's safe for sensitive mouths. And it kills 99% of harmful bacteria, reduces plaque, and remineralizes enamel for stronger teeth and gums.
Get Closest Silver and other Closest products at these fine retailers. Closest, gentlest oral care ever.
Before we get down to slinging, we like to set the mood.
Dim the lights, put on some musk, light a candle.
And take a circ saw to our old equipment.
And let's leave the shades open so the neighbors can see right in.
Let them watch.
Sling TV is the live TV you love with no long-term contracts. Stop paying too much for TV. Watch 7 days free at slingtv.com.
Hi, sweetheart. I know I should have called, but I was in the neighbor. I love this cookware. Did I get this for you?
It's actually from Wayfair, okay?
Look at this ottoman. Where'd you get this?
Still Wayfair.
Oh, this table. And it folds out.
Looks pretty good, Mom, don't you think?
Sweetheart, has your mother-in-law been here?
Mom, she didn't replace you. She's got Wayfair.
Oh, yes, that's nice. In my house.
More than half a dozen black employees at a GM plant say they are facing racist threats and intimidation at work. Their evidence is laid out in a lawsuit with pictures of nooses, whites-only signs, and the N-word they say showed up inside the plant. While GM says it takes discrimination and intimidation seriously and is doing all it can to get rid of the problem, a state law enforcement agency ruled it isn't doing enough. CNN's Sarah Seidner has a story, and I have to warn you, okay? You will hear racial epithets and disturbing language in this story.
Every day he walked into work, Marcus Boyd prayed he'd survive his shift unscathed.
I felt like I was at war, risking my life every day.
Derek Brooks, a former Marine, worked in the same place. Both were supervisors on different shifts at the General Motors transmission plant in Toledo, Ohio. Brooks considers himself tough from his military training, but he struggled to handle what was happening at work.
How rough and tough can you be when you got 11 or 12 people who want to put a noose around your neck and hang you till you're dead?
There's a reason he brings up nooses. It's not just a figure of speech.
This is the picture of the noose that I found the night that I was at work on my shift.
According to a lawsuit now pending against GM, this is one of at least 5 nooses discovered at their workplace in separate incidents. The suit also claims there were signs that blacks were not welcome there. White only scrawled on a bathroom wall, along with swastikas on bathroom stalls, and niggers not allowed scratched on the bathroom.
You don't belong here. This was saying, if you stay here, this is what will happen to you.
In this struggling town, Brooks, one of their 6-figure job, has 8 children, a boy. When did you notice overt?
Well, when an employee that was under me, he told me that back in the day, a person like me would have been buried with a shovel.
He said what to you?
That was a death threat, and I was told to push that to the side.
Boyd says he reported the incident.
He admitted to it, and I was pulled to the side and said, you know, if you want to build relationships here, you know, you just let things go, he'll be all right.
But he says the threats got worse. Were you afraid for your life?
Definitely. That's why I left.
When the noose appeared in March of 2017, Derek Brooks says he reported it to upper management. He was sure he was the intended target, but says he was told to investigate by questioning his employees.
It felt like a slap in the face. It did, but I had to be professional.
Brooks and other black employees also noticed being called Dan.
I thought they just mispronounced my name for Derek. Then later I find out that Dan was an acronym for dumbass nigga.
General Motors sent us a statement insisting discrimination and harassment are not acceptable and in stark contrast to how they expect people to show up at work. We treat any reported incident with sensitivity and urgency and are committed to providing an environment that is safe, open, and inclusive. And that every day, everyone at General Motors is expected to uphold the values that are an integral part of its culture. But according to more than half dozen current and former black employees, the problem is the culture. They say inside this plant, racism and harassment are the norm, not the exception.
It is a culture.
It's a culture. Yeah. You have to, it's from the top down and the bottom up.
One employee filed a police report. Others filed complaints with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission prior to filing suit.
The ultimate decision that was made is that GM did allow a racially hostile environment.
They allege they investigated quickly and have done remedial things to take care of the problem.
The commission disagrees with that position. GM did not do very much at all, or what they did do was not effective.
GM says that they held mandatory meetings and even closed the plant for a day for training and to address the issue with every shift. The Civil Rights Commission report noted a former union president's testimony that during one of those meetings, a white supervisor said too big of a deal was being made of the nooses. After all, there was never a black person who was lynched that didn't deserve it. The lawsuit alleges that supervisor was never disciplined.
General Motors is supposed to stand for something, right? That's the great American company. But what are you doing about this?
A GM representative that we spoke to says that they have not identified those who put up the nooses, and therefore no one has been fired for those incidents. They said, however, that some people have been dismissed in that Toledo plant during what it's calling its extensive anti-discrimination and anti-harassment work, and that work continues today. But Don, guess what else continues? Yeah. The racist threats. Just today, we received a picture from inside of the plant sent to an attorney that mentions hanging people. There have been other threats against those who have spoken out, black workers there, threats directed directly at them, and they are now in fear and would not go on camera because they were in fear for speaking out again in case more threats came their way as they're going through this process, Don.
You told us, Sarah, what GM said. What about the union?
So we did speak to a UAW representative, and he said, look, he'd been there for 34 years. There could be some, what he said, bad actors that work there, but he didn't believe that there was widespread intentional racism. Now, he said something very interesting. He says, do I believe that people are a little too sensitive in this day and age? Yes, but you can't say the same things you used to say 20 years ago that you can say now. That is the problem that these workers are talking about, being called sensitive when they're facing these really extreme racial epithets, really extreme behavior, and they're being told to suck it up and get along. Don?
Oh, Sarah, thank you. Appreciate your reporting. We'll be right back.
To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop. Does this sound dismal? It isn't. It's the most wonderful life on earth.
Sometimes I like to go in Trivago and explore the different possibilities a hotel can offer me. Like a beautiful pool. Whoa! Search for your destination, choose filters, and select your maximum budget. Hotel Trivago.
It's all wide open space out here, but there's still no room for nonsense. And while the clock moves slower, no one here has time to waste. Small towns are different that way. Folks don't want to buy what you're selling. They want to believe what you're saying. So tell the truth, bring your best, and show them you're here to stay.
Dish was built by serving small towns all across America.
It's why we'll show up when promised, stay till you're satisfied, and deliver the strongest connection. Dish, tuned in to you.
Hey, who are you?
Oh, hey, Jeff, I'm a car thief.
What?
I'm here to steal your car because, well, that's my job.
What?
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 It happens. And you got cut rate car insurance? Paying for this could feel like getting robbed twice. So get Allstate. And be better protected from mayhem. Like me.
What's the horse?
What you don't see can hurt you. Today's connected world is full of threats you may not see if you just monitor your credit to help protect your identity. LifeLock sees more, like your personal information on the dark web. And now with the power of Norton, we detect